Greetings, Algo artisans. We're going to look at Filecoin, Injective, and Ton. 3 coins that I've been interested in, coins I've charted, and now we have some updates. It does look like things are going to move, so let's jump into the charts right now. Okay, so we're looking at a weekly chart of Filecoin. So this is price going all the way back to 2022 in its prior bull run. So we already have some levels marked out from the prior video as to where price might go in the long term. And you can always go back and look at that video. In the meantime, let's look at what's happening in the short term. Now, algorithmically, things are very bullish on the high time frame. Now, that doesn't mean it won't do some pullbacks on the way up, but it does mean most of the time the price is ready to make a very strong move up, and if you're looking on a shorter time frame, it certainly has done that. So price just popped up out of what was a pretty long consolidation. It really was almost a symmetrical triangle consolidation, and I don't like to trade those. They tend to be a bit unpredictable. However, one way to look at it is what happens at the end of that is going to be clued in by the algos. Another way to look at this consolidation might be just as a typical range, and for a time price was more or less obeying a range. Again, it did seem to get a little more tight as time went on, and that is also typical of a range that ends in a bullish fashion. So we can say that this range looked like that. Either way, this is a months-long range going back to mid-April after the pullback that happened as a result of the Bitcoin post-halving pullback. So where might price go in the near term? Well, let's take a look at the most recent move down. The most recent midterm time frame impulse. This is going to go from on Monday, early April, from $9.38 all the way down to this pullback. I'm going to go ahead and do a fib retracement on this, and we can see that the 618 actually is a really good target. It's below some of this prior price action, this range that happened back in mid-April, and which price may be attracted to but want to stop right before. So price may simply run up to this area, and there is of course this low point right here just below that. There's going to be some areas where price would have a hard time breaching that. So price might want to pivot before it hits that. So if I were to jump into a trade, there's a couple ways I would do it. Now it's already more or less broken out. Of course, there is this bit of structure from back here around the 23rd of May. There was that high, so price may still need to break that. That's a sneaky bit of structure, and just above that is an area that price is going to have a hard time breaking. As a matter of fact, you can see if I zoom in, here is this high from late April, and then price is already rejecting at that high. So what we might end up seeing is a new range created somewhere between this 670-ish area and some of these higher levels right here. So the way I think I would play this would be I would buy a pullback, and the pullback could look one of two ways. Now this move is a pretty strong move. Price went up in this one day, this one candle, a nice 14% gain, which is great because I own some Filecoin. And remember, nothing we say is meant to be used or construed as investment advice. Talk to your licensed investment advisor before you risk your money on the markets, because you can lose money doing that. All of that disclaimer said, the way I would do this is I would either look for a pullback to the top of the prior range, which would look like this, and I would look to possibly buy around this area, maybe a little bit higher. And the reason I might go a little bit higher is these two top points right here where price moved up. Now the range itself I'm defining as a little bit lower, but these two tops right there have me interested in possibly looking for a pullback to that area. And any pullback, I would want to go at least that far because of this resistance created by this. I wouldn't want just a tiny pullback, right? It's not ideal, but a deep enough pullback to about the 636 level. And if I see price reverse to the upside and my algos say that I can get in, then I may very well take a trade right there. And the stop loss would be based on the structure of that pullback plus some protection from the structure inside of this consolidation. Now this particular trade would have some beautiful risk to reward, 2.5 to 1. That's great. What's the next scenario? Let's say price doesn't pull back that far. Well, I would look for a breakout of this high, this $677 high. And as it breaks out, I might buy it on the breakout if it's a bullish enough move, or I might look for a quick pullback and then move upwards. Now it's a pretty strong extension. However, the structure from this move back up in April might protect a downside, or might protect from a downside move, which would allow me to create a stop loss that is relatively tight. Again, I'd have to calculate it, so I'm just eyeballing it right now, but that stop loss might be something like this, and at least it's going to be better than a 1-to-1. I might tighten up that stop loss as the algos allow, but initially it might not be the tightest stop. Now, as price heads up, remember, this is on the daily chart, so there might be some opportunities to catch yet another pullback on the way up and then have a tighter stop, because we'll have seen some structure get built, and then you might get your 2.5-to-1 and build a position on the way up. So this is how I'm going to trade Filecoin. Let's go ahead and jump into Injective, another coin that's doing pretty well. That's a coin that I talked about some time ago. So a lot of this is going to have similar price action, and you can see that back in late April, I thought price would pull back to this level and pull up, but what it appears to have done is create a sort of a Wyckoff pattern. And we talked about the Wyckoff pattern, but let's go ahead and show what that is right here. So I'll add this image to the chart and I'll expand it to fit about that same area of price action, so you can see that this is forming a bit of a Wyckoff scenario. Now, these Wyckoffs are oftentimes not precise. However, you do have what appear to be some of the proper conditions. You have your deeper dip right here, which is your spring. You have a pull up to the top and a consolidation. Now, this consolidation is not holding as high as I'd like to see. However, there is a breakout above that high. So I think we're safe to say that there's a good probability that price is going to head up out of this prior consolidation area. And if I were to range that out, it would look something like this. And again, we have price towards the top of that consolidation at the end, having broken out, and it is even broken above the prior high right here. Now, it's also not closed above that high. So what I would like to see before entering a trade is either, just like Filecoin, a pullback to the top of that structure, or at least a little bit lower, so that I'm able to get some decent risk to reward before I try and break this little bit of structure created back again on late April, right about the same date as the same scenario with Filecoin. Now, where might I take profit on this short-term trade? This one's a little bit different. There's a lot more price action, a lot more wiggly, if you will. So I would probably look to take profit well before some of these extensions. Now, if I were to do the same formula as I did with Injective, I would use a Fibonacci tool, and the 618 would be a little too low for me to be concerned with. But if I took the much greater high time frame extension, now we're putting ourselves in a position to take what is a much higher time frame trade. It's a little bit different of the formula than we took on Filecoin, which means that the stop loss might have to be a bit deeper, because this is really more of a high time frame scenario. So whether I entered at this breakout here or even down here, my stop loss probably would be around the midpoint or just below the midpoint of that lower end consolidation, still yielding me about a 2.3, 2.5 to 1. If it did break out, I would have to really just be sure that things were very bullish, because you do have some structure in the way right here, and I would have to find a way to take a tighter stop to take this trade, like I would with Filecoin. Again, price would have to break out to a certain degree, and my algos would have to read strong. The good news is that we do have a prior range on Injective, so price is going to be attracted to that prior range, and that's basically here, where price bounced back and forth between $31.3 and about $40. Once in that range, price should bounce back and forth, and using that range as the bottom, perhaps might be able to find some trades up in here, and that would be healthy. Something along these lines. Probably not as high of a bounce though. So I might wait for price to break whatever little hop it has here, or I might simply just buy it as soon as I'm confident that it's inside of this range, and there's a decent chance I can get a risk to reward of at least 2 to 1, something along those lines, because a stop loss can be a bit tighter depending on how things work when price is in a range. Our last coin to look at today will be Toncoin. Now, I think Toncoin has a massive potential. I also think these other coins have a massive potential to be larger cap crypto big winners. Still a lot of room to move. However, you can see that I have this ton trade that's already a winner from back in early June, just a couple of days ago. So this trade has already won, and I put that out from my private live lab. So let's jump down to this lower time frame and talk about a different strategy. Now that that trade is won, that was a private Algo Factory trade idea, I'm going to take a look at this impulse here that goes from this level, 656, all the way up to 788. Now we have a pullback that's probably a little bit deeper than a 382, but the great thing about this pullback is that it is in the zone where I usually look for reversals, just barely right at the top. We're on the way up in a trend when price comes down and then grabs liquidity at the bottom and goes back up. Anywhere in this square is where I look for reversals. And right there is where we have now seen a reversal. So on this lower time frame, we do have a decent formula for a fib extension. Now, ideally, the place to enter this trade would have been right around this reversal period. The price is not too far from there, and there may still be risk to reward that is within my profile, within my rules. So the impulse that I'm going to map is this one here, from the bottom to the top of the most recent move up. We have some Fibonacci extension levels that we can mark out, and you know that I've front run those just a little bit. So these are some near-term targets right here. You've got 820 and about 865. Now, this is price discovery. Price has never been this high. So I'm going to take a look at a higher time frame and see if we can get some extended targets in the case that ton runs really hard, and there's a very good chance that it will, in my opinion. So here we are on the 18 hour. And instead of this move right here, I'm actually going to use the extension starting in 30 April. I'm going to treat this as one large extension. Now price already has broken out of that, and there may very well be some confluence. I'm willing to bet this 867 is confluence. This 618 will be our 272. Let's see. Not quite. Now the 272 for this longer extension matches the 272 for the shorter extension, but the 618 is a bit higher. And then if you want, we can actually go super high time frame, and this large move up for ton, which is on a higher time frame, one impulse. We can start at the bottom, head to the top, and here's where we see some pretty strong confluence. The 618 from this medium impulse, we have the small impulse we did first, medium second, this large impulse third, the 272 matches right up with that 618. So that 618 sitting at 930 or so is a very strong target in my opinion. Now the next target I would take would be sitting at about 1120. That's the 618 for the higher time frame impulse. So those are my targets. And I may break this up like I did with Solana into two smaller trades, one for these near targets if I can achieve the risk to reward that I need, and then maybe a larger trade for these two targets, 924 and 1120, and I think that's money. I think that we are at a point where Bitcoin is going to break out soon, and ton has pretty much ignored all of that anyway. It's been incredibly strong. There's a lot going on with ton in the background that many don't know. For one thing, ton is going to open up, as far as I've heard, its own version of a meme coin ecosystem. There's word that that's happening, and I don't think it's a big secret, but I think a lot of people are just not paying attention. Now ton, really, the sky's the limit. This is a coin that has the best marketing in the entirety of crypto. It's a Telegram coin. Telegram is where it's at, Telegram and Twitter. So I definitely see a lot going on here. I hope this video was helpful. Please come over to algofactory.tech. We teach people how to build their own trading method, otherwise known as an algorithm. You don't have to know how to code, but if you do code, we can put you on the path to where you can build something that trades for you while you're not at the computer. If you just want to trade manually, which is what most people are doing, then that is, of course, something that we can help you do and help you have the capability to possibly extract money out of these markets on a regular basis. And while we do focus on crypto for a lot of these videos, I'm actually primarily a Forex trader, and you got to know that crypto doesn't go forever. It goes for about a year and a half, and then for a couple of years, there's not much going on in crypto. And if you want to be a trader, you're going to want to understand how to really trade, how to put on those big boy pants, because what's going to happen is eventually crypto's going to flatten out, and the meme coins aren't going to be what they used to be, most likely. I've seen it enough times and been in this game since 2017. I don't expect that to change. So come on over, learn how to trade. As a matter of fact, we got some pretty happy customers who are already down the path of success in their algo building. Let's hear from one of those right now.
Hey guys. So I've been in Algo Factory for around 10 months now. I held crypto, but I hadn't traded crypto or Forex before. Since joining, I've learned a massive amount that I use almost daily for trading, reading charts, using indicators, and understanding different aspects of the market. So I found the course incredibly easy to follow, and the interactive style of teaching is incredibly beneficial. So now that I'm comfortable in my trading ability, I'm starting to invest more capital, and projections are looking very promising. My goal is to be trading full-time in the future, which I believe is highly achievable. I've met an amazing community of like-minded people and made some great friends. In my opinion, both V and Cowboy go above and beyond, and I highly recommend joining Algo Factory. Thanks for everything, legends. Cheers.
All right, thank you for listening to that. AlgoFactory.tech. Don't forget, trade your job, upgrade your life. We'll see you on the next one.